According to the World Health Organization report of 2020, 1 in 4 Ugandans experience mental health issues. Well, that's not all. We also saw the U report releasing another different statistic in 2024, where 70% of the youth report feeling stressed or anxious. I'm not alone in this episode. I am being joined by a comrade, by a leader, by a mentor.
Later on, I kept on realizing, kumbe, I think there is life after death.
The man I'm talking about is the one and only.
I have tried to become a musician.
Okay.
It was very hard for people to advise me, go to school, do this. No.
Hafashimana Asimwe, good to have you, sir. According to the World Health Organization report of 2020, 1 in 4 Ugandans experience mental health issues. Well, that's not all. We also saw the U report releasing another different statistic in 2024, where 70% of the youth report feeling stressed or anxious. Well, as a youth, why shouldn't you be anxious? As many people want to normalize the whole thing. So in this episode, we are going to talk about the power of mindfulness. How do we find peace in a busy world? In a world where we are all trying to be at the top of our game. We are the young people, but we still want to have the first witness. We want to make a name for ourselves. Well, I'm not alone in this episode. I am being joined by a comrade, by a leader, by a mentor, who is a dynamic leader from Kisoro district, which hails in the southwestern Uganda. He is a national treasurer of the Cornerstone Old Students Association, District Council Youth Chairperson of the National Youth Council, that is still Kisoro District. He is a seasoned leader. He has led various roles, including President of Uganda Democracy Academy, Program Manager of SOA Away. He is a passionate advocate for youth empowerment, climate justice, and education. Not only that, he has represented Uganda internationally, attended global summits, and mentored young leaders through initiatives like Best Bahamwe. He is a true inspiration, and we are honored to have him. The man I'm talking about is the one and only Hafashimana Asimwe. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure, and we are honored to host you today as we talk about the power of mindfulness. So, as we roll out the whole discussion, as we open up the platform, let's start with your journey. We have we have read, we have seen you being active in the spaces of leadership, mentorship, and also empowering the young people. So, how did you discover the mindfulness, and how has it impacted your leadership and daily life?
The practice of paying attention to whatever happens, especially now in the present, and the idea of stopping to worry about what has happened in the past is what we are calling mindfulness.
Right.
I have also incorporated in the idea of practicing the pause. Practicing the pause means that you stop everything you're doing and give attention to certain things that are happening around your personal being, but also reflecting on what you have either been able to achieve or not. Therefore, those that we have been able to achieve must not worry us. And I think I've seen senior politician leaders or the politicians in nature who have, come out boldly to ask people who go into an election with the hope of winning and they lose to, of course, indulge themselves into what we are talking about today. How do I discover, or how do I practice, or how do I become mindful of whatever happens around board? I have tried to become a musician before, and for the fact I have certain songs in my album.
Okay.
So that have been around 2006. 2006, I must have been around 10 years or 11.
So you were a musician at 10 years?
I tried.
Okay.
I tried. But later on, I realized that it shouldn't have been my calling based on the things I was doing. And I think I'm trying to address the idea of being mindful. But later on, for the people that have known me from when I was growing up, when I began school, I was a bit unruly.
Okay.
It was very hard for people to advise me, go to school, do this. No, I think later on I kept on realizing, oh, kumbe, I think there is life after death. And beyond that, I wanted to become the person I have become today. And that's how rise up to become or to go through what you have been taking the audience through.
Right.
But things to do with mindfulness, they usher us into wellness and well-being. And because of that, there are certain thematic things that as an individual we must go through. Well, you see, when God was creating us, he gave us four major endowments of human life. And among them is conscience. And I think conscience, among the four major endowments of life of a human being, addresses the idea of mindfulness. Because conscience gives us the ability as human beings to, think through. For example, right now you cannot come from here and you start shouting against the school administration. Conscience tells you it is improper. Conscience tells you it is proper. Do it. Go ahead, you'll achieve. But also the idea of independent willingness. Those are among the four endowments. Independent willingness tells us that you as an individual, you must be able to, find your quiet time and make decisions that are based on your core values, on your mission and vision statements. And I think that's why, as human beings, especially the audience who are listening us or to us, they should indulge themselves into, your vision or your decision must match with your vision. And from the biblical context, the Bible tells us that without vision, people perish. That means for us to have or to be mindful in our environment, we must have things that guide us, things that drive us to do, or that must inspire us to become who we want to be. You talked about the best Abraham ideas. Best Abraham ideas is an initiative that is garnered or that is surrounding or funded by 3 individuals. And ours was ensure that we look out to mentor 1 or 2 people, young people who could at the end of the day define or find their potential. God has created us with different abilities, different talents. So how do we give them an enabling environment to discover the hidden potential in them? Because each one of us has a unique value, has a unique talent. And I think the way we can only do this is to ensure that we provide a platform for our young people, our young breed of leaders to discover the potential in them. And when we talk about this, there is an issue to do with meditation. What am I good at? What are you good at? What should I maintain? What should I grow? You have consistently become the way you are because of what you dream every day. You have consistently become or performed the way you are or the way you're performing because you either wake up to read. If you have been reading for 2 hours, maybe you have always added in extra 30 minutes. So extra bit of it is the most important thing. But I've also been telling a few friends around my circle that hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. This is because as we practice the idea of meditation, awareness and well-being and all that, we must have an idea of adding extra energy, extra effort. And I think that's when we are addressing the issue of mindfulness, we must not forget the issue to do with, reflecting back without worrying, but focusing ahead with more hope and strength, because that gives us the hope that in fact there is hope to do better tomorrow. I have participated in a number of elections politically. Some of them I have gone through and others I have not. But I will give you an example. In 2020, I contested to become the Secretary of Finance of my district. And a colleague who I was in the same race with, I think I was supporting him for chairperson. On the last day, he changed his mind to contest against my position. I ended up losing because he had support from, the other colleague of his. And I lost by 2 votes. And I think losing by 2 votes, I can assure you I was never worried about that loss. In fact, that loss was the start of who I have become in the last 5 years. But also, you could have heard about a colleague, a brother in the names of Katopor. Katopor was, I think, a guild president in Makerere in the 83rd. And when I had met him when I was in senior 5, senior 6, being the chairman school council of my old school at senior 6, he came and spoke to us a number of things that I think inspired us to become hopeful, but also focus ahead with future. And I can assure you, by the time I was joining university in Chambogo, I knew that I would become a leader there, either as a coordinator or as a GRC, because he had briefed us. And I think that goes back to the mentorship bit of it. You see, our young generation wants to not have guiding principles or people to guide us. We shall not make it, because we cannot know it all. After all, life is about the discovery. How do we discover? Reading. That's why this idea is all about beyond the box. What do we do? And I think I can also say that I'm reminded that when I was going to university, I did not have to worry about how, if I will score a first class or a second class. All I knew was that I must be successful within university. And I think I never buried all my life at reading, discussions, though I knew there was time for everything. I could also give you a biblical emphasis that there is time for everything. That should be in Jeremiah or Ecclesiastes, because I'm not a pastor. But it must be in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Okay. And I think beyond that, Ecclesiastes was written by a wise man, King Solomon. Having written three successful books, I believe, including Proverbs, you realize that my sharing is around those areas, apart from the Song of Songs that talks about marriage and love. And when we were talking about the idea of mindfulness, how do I ensure that there are certain habits that I must stop, that have been hindering me from progressing, and when I stop them, I will progress. Number one, the way we walk, and I will give light about that. You see, the way we walk can make different conclusions from people around us. Either you are walking while you are balancing, those are for men, or you are walking, you are a lady, depending on where you have breast or where you are going. It will make people around that community, around that society, make certain conclusions around your personality. So once you get to hear about what people have about you, you might change the way you think about them. And that hinders the way you work with them, your working relationship with them. So that's why it is important to mind about how we walk, how we dress. You have also seen people, usually when they are eating, they are on TVs watching. When they are eating, they are with their phones, going through messages, responding, ABC, and all that. Or they, all those are habits that I think when you want to ensure that we emulate mindfulness in a busy world, we must inculcate ourselves into. And I think I'll be very specific when I'm talking about, some of the things, because at the end of the day, that's why you have seen people, it's either a board meeting for the young leaders who are coming up, or it's an executive meeting with a managing director or with a CEO. When they are talking to you, you are busy chatting on your phone. I have been at the Uganda Democracy Academy. When I was there, we had to learn something very important, that there is always respect that is not commandative, but respect that comes because there is responsibility. So respect is not just about, because you have to command it, or I deserve it. Respect must come because you are responsible. So that if you're in your executive meeting, then when you're not on your phone and somebody's talking to you, definitely you are becoming responsible. That's respect. But I think beyond that, it goes ahead to, respect those that are below us as leaders now. And because today you have seen that whenever you apply for something, there are always notifications, deadlines. Of course, when it is a coursework, when it is an exam, there is always time, because time is the greatest resource. And I think if you have been very clear in last 2 years, I've been very, very clear about two things that God has given us. And that I think one of them is time that we must use. And when you talk about time, for you to practice mindfulness, you do not have to plan, when can I do this? No. You can do that anywhere at any time, because it doesn't have to have time allocation. Right. And I think chance then, because we are into a global world, a global community, where chances are very many. But for us to grab them or benefit from them, we need to be close, or we need to research, or we need to be, mindful of those around us. And I think I would really honestly say that things to do with, have that kind of physical ability, when you're into good health, to have better mental approachability, to have that peace of mind. There are certain things that you must live and, embrace a few other things to, guide your journey as you go ahead.
All right, that has been quite insightful. You actually had to break down all the segments that you had to be covered. But there is one thing actually I would want us now to talk about. I want us to talk about this issue of comparison. Yeah. some of the things that have caused the destabilization of the mental health of most of the people, particularly the youth, is comparison, where we want to compare ourselves. And not only does comparison come from the personal angle, we've also seen people around us compare us. Our parents compare us. Maybe our neighbor's child is doing something, and then your father is like, "Why can't you be like, the neighbor's child?" So I find these things actually traumatizing us. And the fact that most of the youth want to show people that we can actually figure things out by ourselves, we don't want to speak out. So I find these are some of the pressing matters that, tremble down our mindfulness or the state of mindfulness. So how best can we, work around that issue of comparisons with other people's successes, achievements, and how do we be content with what we have at the moment and hope for the best?
When I was growing up, I was lucky that I'm one of the young people then that benefited from the conversations around fireplace. And where my grandmother's house was a little bit on the top of the hill. So wherever we were, when you know the demographics around Kisoro, there is where you can be and you can see a few other areas around your district. So while we were there, we were told a number of stories. And I think it comes back to what our parents used to talk to us, to copy and paste of what other kids or other children of other families were doing. And I think I can assure you, it was never taken in a negative way. It was rather looked at as hope to have or to raise a family with children that have focus. For the fact, at the age of 7, no, I think 10, I joined the boarding section in school. That meant that I would spend most of the time in school, boarding, studying, whereas, of course, other people around the village used to be in the government schools and all that. But to cut the long story short, but to ensure that I cover those essentials, is that whenever I did wrong, they always condemned my acts of either being rude in action, but also doing things that they didn't expect out of me. I could assure you that when I tried to become a musician, as I told you from the genesis of this story, they didn't like it because they always looked at musicians as people with dreadlocks, and all that. Even when I knew they would make money out of that because we could see those of Jose Chameleon and the rest, inspiring the society. And I think I had 1 or 2 friends that also used to inspire me. And I think by P5, they changed my school because of all the things there. I left Kisoro, I think I was taken to Kabale. And the school where I went to study from in Kabale, I found there a few other like-minded people. Now it goes back to mindfulness. Those guys that were composing local-based music in their local languages, that's how I came to understand. In fact, Ruchiga is a good language on top of my local language, Rufumbira. So I started now becoming a multilingual in that way. So I would want to say that whereas parents use it, or even up to date, they still compare children with other children of their neighbors, I don't think it should be the best way to mentor these people. Because when that begins, then it castigates or it introduces these children into malice, into jealous. Why would the son or the daughter of so and so be compared to me that I am not better than them? And for them, they feel the pride that in fact they are better. It goes back to the tribal inclinations. For example, today in this generation, it is very wrong to assert that I'm proud Mufumbira. Because I do not know, or I'm not mindful about what it will cause to a person who listens to me, that in fact I'm proud Mufumbira. Yet for him is a proud Muganda. Yet for him is a proud Mugiso. So it would rather be said that we are proud human beings who are living together, coexisting in the same society. So some of those comparisons, they deter human bilateral relations. They deter human beings from working to. Nelson Mandela said that my children will not be defined by their skin color, by their, religion, by the way they even talk. But the most important thing that I would want my children to be, looked at is only their character. For their character is defined by the way they do their things. So because of that, when you are talking to your child as a parent, it does not necessarily mean that you should compare your children with the others, because as I have already said, this kind of whole debate will spark fire, will ignite something that will feel your children not being loved by yourselves as parents, because you are diverting them to not rather show them the right way, but comparing them with the character of their children, the other children. So it is something very, very bad, because whereas we'd want them to pick good lessons from them, the way you bring it on the table before them matters a lot. So if it is either in terms of asking your children to look at these kids as their mentors, because mentorship also has levels. You can mentor me even when you're younger than me. You can mentor me when we are age mates. I can mentor you when you are a bit older than you. So it has those three levels. So because of that, the way we put it on the table determines if our children can in fact tap something positive out of that argumentation. And I think to close that whole thing, I want to say that when God was creating us, and I think I want to go back to the other four major endowments, it has things to do with imaginative thinking. In fact, it must be point number 3. So there is imaginative thinking and then self-awareness. That in imaginative thinking, have you ever been there and imagine, focus ahead with hope? What am I here on earth? In fact, why am I created by God? And after realizing that mission, your mission here on earth, then you will start doing things in a rightful way. And I think going back to self-awareness is interconnected with being mindful. That kind of whole thing to, think about the present, things happening right now by practicing the pause. What am I here on earth? What is it that I am doing? And in fact, I can do it. Let me give an example. Footballer in the names of Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho was a very good footballer who would score more than 4 goals in the same match. And I think then in the years, everybody admired him. Leave alone the Ronaldo and Messi but there was Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho, in the last, I think around 2018, when they checked on his account, he had $1. That was $1, which I think today is equivalent to almost 1K. 3,000 something. So when they checked on, of course, footballers earn a lot. And when it goes back to internal reflection or self-awareness, I think at time reached and he out-aged. He did not do self-reflection, that kind of whole thing of self-awareness to know who or what he was good at. So he lost it all. So today, that's why the youngsters rising up in football might not know or hear about him. Why? Because we say that hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work very hard. So because of that, I want to also believe in the same spirit that the way our parents talk to their children or the way my parents talk to me inspire me a lot. But also you have seen scenarios whereby when you are still young, your parents play a very pivotal role to ensure that they guide your personal living. And when they are aging and you are also maturing up, it now shifts. It is now you who goes back to ask them or to guide them what they should do. You have seen scenarios whereby when you were still young, they used to help you cross the road from this side to the other side. But today, when they are aging up, it is the reverse. It is now me to hold their hand and help them to cross the road. So it goes back to how, as society, we interact with one another with love, with kindness, with humility. Humility, you do not cease to be who you are if you are humble. For the fact, one of the historical ladies that inspire me, Mother Teresa, said that not each of us can do great things, but each one of us can do small things with great love. And I think to me speaks to my heart because she exhibited the highest level of humility. Of course, when we talk about men like Mahatma Gandhi is known for his kindness because of his non-violent nature or approach of supporting India to attain its independence, I think in 1940s there. So because of that, some of those great historicals, great philosophers, great leaders inspire us, the young generation, the new breed of leaders, to really become who we want to be, because whatever we are doing has been done by the great men before. So we just have to inculcate that idea, but also embrace the idea of guided mentorship, so that we can be taken through life on the things that we would really want to also be able to desire when we have outgrown. And I think because of that, it is incumbent upon me and those watching us that we must create the world or paint a picture that will leave a mark that you and I, in our 50s, in our 60s, in our 80s, we can admire, God willing.
All right. Today's discussion has been around the purpose of mindfulness. For those who have been following, here is a breakdown. We discussed on how best we can ensure that our environment is in our favor, where we can also draw some inspiration and also motivation from the book Atomic Habits, where they talk about not fighting your environment. Don't fight yourself if you want to work on your habits. We also spoke about the impact of God as well. My guests today clearly even quoted the Bible. They showed us the examples, relevant examples, on how we can ensure that our environment is very safe and we are also not fighting ourselves. Work along your own time. We all don't have to be great. Yeah, we can still do small things in a great way. Be your own inspiration. Our dear parents, our dear mentors, do not tear someone down just because you have the upper hand. And also to our dear leaders, we've been called upon to embrace the whole ideology of humility. Well, as we come to the evenings of this episode, I come back to you to give us the parting shots from your end.
First of all, when you are waking up daily, most of us set goals a day before or that very day. Today I must do this and all that. But I think as I give my parting shots, there is an idea to do with gratitude. And I think I will say gratitude mindfulness. Be there and think of the things you have been able to achieve that very day. 1 or 2, 3 things. But also beyond gratitude or being grateful, look for, this could happen at the end of the week. Look for 1 or 2 people to give a phone call, to appreciate them for good friendship, for being there for you. That way it will motivate them to be there for you. That's why you have had scenarios that I used to be tighties with him, but it stopped. What happened? Because the idea of gratitude was not anywhere. You have seen friends who celebrate others on birthdays. It's either my birthday, you post me, or you text me, happy birthday, brother. But I don't think it must just end and begin at a birthday. It must go beyond that. But also, dear viewers who are watching us, if we are to really have each other at peace in this competitive world, we must also ideate the idea of working together regardless of where we are coming from. And I think I have seen you yourself incorporate the idea of coexistence amidst people from different areas. Uganda has around 146 districts, and these 146 districts have different languages. But the only language that unifies us together is English. Because today when you come from here and you're from Chisoro and you go to Arua in West Nile, you might not understand the Rugwara. Is it Rugba or Arur? But you can understand English and the other person can understand English. So when we want, or when we understand how to work together regardless of who we are, it gives us credibility to still push on as a society or as a generation. And I think as I conclude, I want to say that at the end of the day, what makes you and I is our strength, not our weaknesses. So we rather appreciate our strength and stop critiquing or criticizing. Critiquing, in fact, might be very okay, but criticism now. Because every time there is criticism from one of your circles, then it deters you from planning ahead. And yet the topic we are addressing today is that how do we still coexist in a busy world whereby there are deadlines, there are notifications, there is a technical know-how, there is, meritocracy has faded. So how do we maneuver through to ensure that even when there are those kind of, modalities, we still live together and push on as a society? So beyond that, I will conclude with the words of Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu played a very great role in uniting and reconciling the white man and the, people in South Africa, the Zulu people, the Boers and all of that. And he said that even in the face of impossibilities, a focused group, organized group of people can change the society. And I think it is the same note that I want to ask dear listeners, that even when certain things look impossible, 1 or 2 days, find time and seek your quiet time and think about something that you could have done better. If, for example, you are given that you are going to die next week, what are the things that you would simply work on quickly to ensure that before you die, you achieve them? Think if it is about writing a good book, if it is about becoming the best engineer, if it's about becoming a doctor or a good lawyer who offers justice to the society, you can still do that. But it's now that I think it's just a challenge that you and I can become that kind of change. Just like in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, become the change that you'd want to see yourself.
All right. This has been a quite beautiful session. I would like to take this moment to appreciate everyone. My dear viewers, you're the real MVPs of the show. So thank you so much for staying with us. And to my guests, thank you so much for making time to come and be with us and share your wisdom with us. We don't take it for granted. Thank you so much for liking Beyond the Books, for loving it. Follow us, subscribe, share the comments, and also refer the podcast to someone. You never know whom we are helping. It was Nkurunziza Precious, your usual host. See you next time. Thank you so much.